Prodigy Math was once the dream. A Pokemon-style maths game where kids became wizards, battled monsters by solving equations, and actually wanted to do their homework. Over 100 million students signed up. 90,000 schools across North America brought it into their classrooms. Teachers loved it. Kids were obsessed. It was free. Kind of. We'll come to this. It was fun and it worked. And then Prodigy decided that wasn't enough money. See, Prodigy now runs a 3-tier membership system: Core, Plus, and Ultra. Core gets you basic maths content and a handful of perks. Plus adds science and more in-game goodies. And Ultra, the top tier, unlocks everything, including English, the biggest Magicoin bonuses, and all the flashiest rewards. And yep, we're talking up to $240 a year for Ultra. And recently, Prodigy introduced that premium currency I just mentioned, Magicoin, and gated almost everything behind it. Evolving your pets? Magicoin. Buying gear? Magicoin. Rescuing new creatures? You guessed it, Magicoin. Now, here's a clever bit, and I mean clever in the most sarcastic way possible. Magicoin was introduced to help free players. Non-members could technically rescue and evolve pets that were previously locked behind the membership. Sounds great, right? As one player put it, Magicoin was added to Prodigy as a way to evolve pets and rescue originally member-only pets without having to purchase membership. At first, I thought it would be an amazing idea, right? Wrong. Because free members have to, and I quote, grind and grind and grind through something called the treasure track to earn just tiny scraps of this currency, while paid members get Magicoin showered on them in bulk. One exasperated veteran actually did the maths. Ironic, and worked out that a single in-game buddy cost 540 Megacoin, whereas a non-member earns only about 130 Magicoin per season. That's 5 entire seasons as a free player just to unlock one buddy. And the old gold coins that players spent ages saving up? Worthless, completely devalued overnight. About as useful as a chocolate teapot. Hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into EdTech tools. Thank you. Back to the video. But it's not just free players getting shafted. Even paying members are being squeezed. One mother who'd already paid $60 for her daughter's annual core membership logged on after a big update to find that half the game now required an Ultra membership. Her autistic daughter was, and I quote, literally crying because they play videos asking her to become a premium member for content that used to be included in the membership they'd already bought. The parent said that membership was now pointless. Another parent said their kids logged in the other day only to be extremely frustrated because they can no longer get the special rewards without paying an even higher tier, despite the family having paid a lot for the membership for 2 kids. So, free players can't afford anything. Paying members are being upsold on memberships they've already bought. As one student vented, all you see in Prodigy are these stupid ads showing, buy this Ultra membership, kids. It's supposed to be a game for kids that want to learn mathematics in a fun way. Even core gameplay features, Mirror's Tower, unrestricted PvP battles, now reportedly require an active membership. Long-term fans, heartbroken. One player who'd been on since 2018 said, Prodigy is trash now. It's removed every single nostalgic and great aspect of itself. Another simply said, Prodigy has fallen into disrepair. It's just pay to play now. Another described it as not merely cooked, but charred by greed. And my personal favourite? The user who said Prodigy has been consumed by the demons of greed and is now being slowly digested. Poetic, that. Now, to be fair, some people argue this is a necessary evil. Only about 5% of members actually pay for memberships, so those fees technically subsidise the other 95%. And defenders point out that the adult educational content is still free. You don't need Magicoin or fancy pets to solve maths problems. 2 + 2 still equals 4, even if your character's stuck in basic robes. You know what? Fair enough. But that defense, it only goes so far. Because you might be sat watching this and thinking, okay, so Prodigy was good and now it's gone downhill. Sad, but that's just what companies do nowadays. And sure, you could see it that way. But what if I told you that this rot, it didn't start with Magicoin? What if Prodigy was never the hero of the story? What if the entire model from day one was designed to squeeze money out of children and their parents? And these recent changes are just a mask finally slipping. Because that's exactly what the evidence suggests. And trust me, it is so much worse than you think. The dark heart of Prodigy? What if your maths homework came with a side of microtransactions? What if not paying for a premium subscription meant your avatar literally trudged through virtual mud while your wealthier classmates rode on clouds above? It sounds absurd, like some dystopian parody. Yet, this is exactly the reality that Prodigy Math, a popular math game, has created in classrooms across the world. As a Brit who grew up mostly with simple textbooks and worksheets, I find myself equal parts horrified and equal parts relieved. Horrified that such a cash-grabbing scheme is passing as education, and relieved it didn't exist in my school days. Many teachers introduce it as a free supplement to lessons. In fact, Prodigy boasted it's free forever for schools and aligned to curricula. On the surface, it sounds wonderful, engaging kids in maths through a video game. I can almost hear my younger self cheering at the idea of gaming in class. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Prodigy runs on a freemium model. How Prodigy's paywall works. Prodigy's monetization is about as subtle as a slap in the face with a wet kipper. The game dangles rewards and treasures, only to snatch them away from free players. Finish a maths battle and you might see 2 treasure chests. One plain, one sparkly. Click the sparkly chest without a membership, a big buy a membership ad pops up, and you're denied the prize. Your wizard also can't evolve certain pets or even access certain areas without paying. Essentially, Prodigy creates 2 classes of students. Those of families who can afford the premium perks and those who cannot. The Coalition's FTC complaint called it grossly unfair and cruel to make a school-assigned tool inherently give some kids cooler stuff than others. Talk about haves and have-nots in the classroom. The company's defense is that all the actual math content is free. Only cosmetic goodies and some gameplay boosts are paid. But these goodies, they're not trivial to kids. They're coveted. Premium members get exclusive outfits, pets, and even faster progression through the game. Imagine being a struggling student and feeling dumber because your classmates zoomed ahead in a game. Not necessarily from math skill, because their parents paid for an XP boost. It's honestly a perverse incentive structure for ostensibly an educational tool. Even in the classroom mode, where explicit ads are turned off, those premium distinctions remain visible. The cloud riders and fancy costumes in full display. So even at school, the game advertises the paid tier by letting kids flaunt it. Pester Power. If you're wondering how children respond to all of this, the answer is predictable. They want the cool stuff and they want it now. Prodigy's tactics bombard children with advertisements for membership and pressure children to ask parents for the upgrades. In fact, one analysis found that in the home version, kids encountered 4 times as many membership ads as maths questions. 16 ads versus only 4 maths problems in a 19-minute period. 4 times more ads than maths? Prodigy basically turns homework time into a mini commercial break every couple of minutes. I mean, no wonder kids start nagging their parents. As a result of this, parents have reported some truly heartbreaking scenes. In this Reddit thread, a dad described his first grader's reaction to Prodigy's paywall. He is so upset that he cannot evolve his guys. He was about in tears, the father wrote. The child had discovered that evolving his virtual pets, a big deal in the game, was locked behind a membership. A video game marketed as a learning tool had literally made a poor kid cry, all because his dad wouldn't pay for a maths upgrade. If that isn't messed up, I don't know what is. Perhaps the most infuriating story I found was a parent that did actually cave to the pressure and then regretted it deeply. All the spam pop-ups, kid really excited and begging. I bought the membership for a year, the parent wrote, presumably hoping to end the pestering. But Prodigy, knowing Prodigy, wasn't done. Oh look, now we have a higher membership level. Enjoy new spammy pop-ups for it, they added sarcastically. Yes, Prodigy introduced an even more expensive ultimate membership, around $180 a year, and immediately started upselling the child on that. It's like paying a ransom, only to have the kidnappers demand a second payment. This new ultimate tier, added in late 2021, further stratified the user base. As if regular premium versus free wasn't bad enough, now there's Premium Plus for kids to envy. Good grief. To be fair, not every child is reduced to tears. Some actually learn a savvy lesson in disappointment. One Reddit commenter recounted telling the kids that if they wanted the premium features, they could use their own birthday money or Christmas money to buy it. The child did and regretted it. Lesson learned. Another parent said they use it as an opportunity to teach about microtransactions. I'd rather have him learn this lesson now and hate games than have them, one father wrote, hoping his son will avoid wasting money on such schemes in the future. It's pretty sad when a maths game intended for education becomes an early lesson in consumer protection, essentially training kids to spot predatory monetization. One could argue that Prodigy is inadvertently teaching financial literacy, but that's certainly not the maths lesson that parents or teachers signed up for. Teachers weigh in. What do teachers think of Prodigy? The answer is a mixed bag. Some see a useful tool, but many are appalled by the paywall and distractions. On the one hand, I found teachers who used Prodigy like a reward or a fun practice tool. When used strictly in the free classroom mode, a few educators noted it can motivate students who otherwise dislike maths, and it gives teachers some data on which skills kids struggle with. It's a nice way to let them play a game as a reward, which still has some educational value, wrote a Year 4 teacher, though he added, I do hate how they pander for membership. In other words, teachers appreciate the engagement, but loathe the constant upselling that creeps in. In other words, no teacher wants to deal with kids whining about not having membership during class. Indeed, plenty of teachers are outright hostile to Prodigy's approach. Especially in communities of educators, you'll find strong words, to say the least. Oh god, I hate Prodigy. It's a game, not very educational, TBH, one special educational teacher commented bluntly. Another educator lamented the gamification of learning, saying, I really hate the gamification of school. They don't need early exposure to all of the behavioural tricks for capturing attention. It's like they're being trained to fall for meaningless internet points, loot box scams, and gambling. The comment goes on to say that kids should be learning to persevere with boring tasks, like multiplication on paper, rather than being conditioned to expect rewards 24/7. Instead of teaching delay gratification and focus, Prodigy's constant reward loops might be doing the opposite, giving kids a sugar rush of dopamine for every trivial achievement, then asking them to swipe a credit card, well, nag mum or dad for one, to get even more. Some teachers simply refuse to engage with Prodigy at all. They see it as exploiting families and want it nowhere near their classrooms. Susan Lin, a psychologist and veteran children's advocate, summed it up. Prodigy doesn't belong in schools. It's grossly unfair and cruel for the company to pressure kids and parents to buy a paid version by claiming that it's more educational or better in any way than the free version. When an educational product draws words like exploitative, predatory, and deceptive from educators and child development experts, you know there's a serious problem. The consensus among many teachers is that Prodigy may look like a harmless, even helpful game on the surface, but underneath, it's undermining all the values that we want to instill in children. Learning isn't about virtual avatars or flashy pets, and it certainly shouldn't depend on your parents' ability to pay. Kids speak out. Thus far, we've heard from parents and teachers, but what about the kids themselves? The ones smack in the middle of this gamified circus. It turns out that many of them see through Prodigy's nonsense as well, especially the older ones. One commenter reminisced. Back in the day, all the cool kids had the premium version of Prodigy. That's how ingrained the pay-to-win status symbols were. Being a premium member in Prodigy was basically a social currency back in elementary school. Another admitted, I remember begging my mum for the premium version. I was that guy. The phrase begging my mum really stuck with me. It's exactly the kind of Pester Power that Prodigy was engineered to promote. And here's a young adult looking back with a bit of embarrassment about how the game manipulated them. One of the most striking posts I saw was simply titled, Is it just me or is Prodigy trash? This user said, I hate Prodigy. It's just disgusting PTW, they ranted. PTW meaning pay to win. It forces ads for its premium in your face every time you log in and clutters your inventory with items you can't use without premium. Hard to put it any better. Even the kids are fed up with the forced marketing and the reminders of what they can't do without paying. Another chimed in. I never got to evolve my Prodigy pets because you had to pay for that. Imagine being a child playing a math game and uttering that sentence. Evolving pets. Supposedly a fun reward for mastering math challenges turned into a gated feature behind a paywall. So the kid did all the work, solved the problems, but the game said, nope. Not until you pay. Naturally, that kid now hates Prodigy too. The bitterness is perhaps most palpable from those who actually loved Prodigy in its earlier days. YouTuber Shrink perfectly encapsulated this heartbreak, recalling how the game once made maths engaging by blending Pokemon-style gameplay with rewarding educational content. But, as Shrink points out, that's all gone now. Looking back, Shrink can only focus on the good parts because facing the abomination is simply too depressing. A British perspective. Sitting here in the UK, reading all these accounts, I felt two things strongly. I feel outrage on behalf of all these poor kids and teachers, and I feel immense personal relief having dodged this particular bullet by simply being born too early. Growing up in Britain, my experience was blissfully boring in comparison. We had workbooks, printed worksheets, maybe the occasional educational video or a round of mental arithmetic games. Going on the computer, that was a treat, not a daily requirement. It meant 20 minutes of some maths software from some company that's probably now obsolete, rather than doing it every single day. There were no loot boxes in my long division, thank you very much. If an educational company had tried to pull a Prodigy style scheme back then, essentially sending kids home saying, ask your parents to pay £80 a year so you can get more stars in your homework game, I suspect the idea would have been laughed out of the classroom. British parents would have told the school, not on your Nelly, and that would have been the end of that. Even today, I don't see something as blatantly commercial as Prodigy thriving in the current UK environment. At least not without major pushback. In fact, when Prodigy did start advertising itself to UK teachers a few years ago, it immediately drew skepticism. The Guardian wrote about Prodigy in 2021, highlighting the US complaints and warning UK school about what this app was really all about. As the article noted, Prodigy's premium tactics would effectively create a visible divide among students even within a classroom. To my knowledge, Prodigy hasn't taken UK schools by storm the same way that it did, for example, in North America. And good riddance. We have our own set of educational tech and games, but I'd like to think if any one of them tried such overt pay-to-win mechanics aimed at kids, there would be inquiries, perhaps a stern letter from the Department for Education, and a fast exit for that product from the approved resources list. On a personal level, I feel kind of vindicated. My slightly Luddite nostalgia for pencil and paper learning isn't entirely misplaced. Sure, as a kid, I'd have jumped at the chance to play a cool math RPG instead of doing worksheets. But would it have been worth it if it came with psychological tricks to make me beg my parents for money? I recall the biggest financial ask I had in primary school was persuading my mum to buy me a cool calculator. I can't imagine coming home in tears because a school-endorsed game wouldn't let me progress unless we paid up. This parent from Reddit has the right idea. Just tell your kid you aren't going to pay for it. If they don't like it, get a workbook and a pencil and have them go through that. It's not a competition, it's learning. Amen to that. Learning isn't a video game competition, and it certainly shouldn't be a wallet measuring contest among classmates. The sad sum of it all. Having waded through the swamp of Prodigy math stories, I'm left shaking my head. Here is a product that could have been a harmlessly fun way to practice maths, something I might have even enjoyed as a kid, but it's been twisted into a money-making machine that preys on children's impulses and parents' wallets. It's honestly the kind of thing that makes you wonder, what are we doing entrusting our kids' educations to profit-driven companies, especially with so little oversight? The FTC has been urged to step in, but as of yet, Prodigy is still out there, walking that fine, or not so fine, ethical line. And in the end, this whole saga has taught me a lesson. Be very, very careful about edutainment apps bearing gifts, especially ones that claim to be free. Prodigy isn't the first or last to use gamification to hook kids, but its excesses make it a prime example of what not to do in educational tech. I find it rather poetic that a parent on Reddit compared Prodigy to letting kids empty their piggy bank to skip parts of the game. How much fun would Mario be if you emptied your piggy bank instead of having the fun of going to the cool worlds to collect all the stars, they ask. That line, it stuck with me because it gets to the heart of the matter. Prodigy, it takes away the real sense of achievement. In a well-designed learning experience, whether it's traditional or digital, the reward is the knowledge gained, or perhaps a nice sticker from the teacher. In Prodigy, the reward too often is a flashing bauble you might literally have to buy. As a Brit dishing out some hopefully useful critique to any Americans watching, I'll end by saying this. Prodigy Math can take its paywalls, clouds, and treasure chests and bugger off out of the classroom. Give me a scruffy exercise book and a pencil any day. At least I won't try to sell an 8-year-old a $100 membership. In the battle of education versus commercialization, count me firmly in the camp that believes maths classes should be about learning maths, not learning how to outsmart an online salesman. And if that makes me sound like a grumpy old sod, well, I'll wear that like a badge. A free one, mind you, not one behind a paywall. Thank you so much for watching my video today. Smash that like button if you've enjoyed, helps me out in the algorithm, as you know. Snipe, snap, out.